Hello, and welcome to the Canadian Story, where we discuss what Canada is, what Canada could be, and what Canada should be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Canadian Story. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in and listening to us just have conversations with Canadians. Today, we are joined by the infamous Colin BigBear Ross. Colin BigBear Ross.
The Big Bear. Welcome,
Big
Colin.
Bear himself. Welcome to the show, man. It's so great to have you here.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, guys. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. So what I would love to do is something that we haven't done and we used to do all the time in a very long time. We used to ask every guest to tell us something that they love about our country, Canada. So I'll maybe throw that at you and then just ask you to talk a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? What do you do? Where did you come from? What's your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Canada is an amazing nation. Canada is a very young country. It was built on, pioneers, with some dark history of taking away from the Indigenous population. Right now, it's like the States. It's almost like a melting pot, very diverse, multicultural, multi-spiritual. Come as you are, we'll accept you. I love Canada, man. It's so full of nature, healing, amazing people, different cultures from town to town. Canada is just really the dream of the world. It really is. It's the golden place, I would say. I've traveled over 35 countries around the world, and I always tell people Canada's home, man, and this is where my heart is. And you could build whatever success you want. Unfortunately, we've been having some turn of events with our wannabe dictator government, but we'll take care of that. Don't worry about that.
We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. But I wanna hear more about this. You've been to so many different countries. Give us a little bit of what it is that makes Canada special in your mind. You love this place. You're leading the Big Bear movement, which is a global movement. But I want to know specifically, why do you call this place home?
Well, on my Indigenous side, my ancestors are from here, and we have a very strong connection with the land, and just the people here are just genuine, we have good-hearted people in Canada who wear their hearts on their sleeves. There's equal opportunity for everybody protected, under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada, to be who you want to be without discrimination, without being scrutinized against, which again has been seeming to change the last couple of years. I think we'll probably bring this up a few times in this podcast.
Yeah, probably.
But it's land of the free, and you can build whatever empire you want to build, and it's a great country to live in. The nature here is the best in the world. We have the largest water supply in the world. It's multicultural, like I said, multi-spiritual. It's just an amazing nation, and it's the people here are so just good-hearted, really.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we were really known for, and I think that's what's surprising a lot of people is we're supposed to be these good-hearted, loving people. It's like basically the identity of Canadians is that they're kind, right? Kindness is kind of like supposed to be in our DNA. Now, I've always thought that was a little bit oversold. Like, our favorite sport is skating around on basically rock solid ice and smashing each other into the boards, but we have blades on our feet. Like, we like being rough and tumble, but I think there's a big difference between being sport rough and tumble and like hard and strong and being unkind. And we're not an unkind people, but it seems like our government has been very unkind to a whole subset of people that you and I count ourselves as part of. The anti-mandate crowd, the people who disagree with how Justin Trudeau is treating a minority of Canadians. So why do you think we got here? How did we get here where we're supposed to be a country of kindness and there's so much hate?
Well, it's I think it's a simple answer. It's a sick ideology that's taken over the world. It's come from these globalists. It trickled down throughout governments around the world, and we're seeing it firsthand here in Canada. This is like Nazism to to an extreme, almost like this is what it is. They're using the same propaganda, the same BS they were using back then to push an agenda, divide and conquer, and let's get people divided, fighting amongst each other, families turning against families. It creates distraction while they push all their bills behind closed doors, and they're sitting in their little computers. They don't even show up at work anymore. They're just lying out of their teeth, and anytime they get a question thrown at them, they take narrative somewhere else, or they call you a racist or a bigot or some misogynist, it's all just, these guys are just a bunch of bullies, and they're just trying to push an agenda, and they're going about it in all the wrong ways, and it's starting to catch up with them.
Absolutely, it is. Now, before we get into more of this, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about on this particular topic, I want to hear your story, because your story has been so inspiring to me. And as you and I have got to know each other and are working together on a couple of projects now, we're starting to see kind of each other's hearts. And I love your heart, and I want the listeners to know your heart and why you started this Big Bear movement, your personal journey, because that's a big, like Zach said, a really big part of what we try to do on the Canadian Story. So walk us through, what is the Big Bear story? What made you who you are?
Oh man, my story was, a complete roller coaster. I grew up in small town Alberta, southern Alberta. I was a farm
home country.
Yeah, yeah, the motherland. And I grew up in a small town in southern Alberta, Tabor, Alberta. I grew up in a middle class family. Parents divorced at a young age. My mother had to really go out and put food on the table. Same with my father. As they separated. I was a stud athlete, though. I was a stud football player. I think that's probably what got me through high school. I was always partying, fighting and all that stuff. Like, I grew up in Tabor, and it was a rough town. We used to sit outside the bar when we were 15 years old and fight, like drunks. And this is just the mentality. It was an oil field town. I was one of the only Indigenous families in the town. I got picked on, I got bullied on, you name it. But I stood up for myself. It taught me a lot of life values on how to stand up against bullies. I think maybe that's a big reason why I am where I am. And just, with my heart, I was always a good guy. I played football. I went to Calgary, semi-pro. I went to British Columbia, and then I had, scouts from the States looking at me all over. And yeah, I ended up actually, after BC, I ended up going down to New York, and I had teams looking at me down there. I got a work visa to go down there, and, I ended up hurting my knee, and it was game over at that point. And, I started running a nightclub.
What was that like? What was it like to lose your dream that you've been working towards so hard, and like kind of a big part of your identity, I would imagine?
It was the hardest thing I ever went through in my life. I always worked 10 times harder than any guy on that field. Even if he had more skills than me, I outworked him, I outran him. I was in the gym at 5 a.m. Even when I was 16 years old. I was always pushing to the extreme in every aspect of my life. I was never smart, but I was very street smart. And, it really, yeah, it was heartbreaking. It's what sent me actually down the dark path that I went on. And I'm telling you, it was a total roller coaster.
Talk to us about, okay, so you've lost your dream, the thing that you defined yourself, the thing that you were working towards, this objective that you set for yourself, it's gone. What does that feel like, and how did that result in, let's say, this dark path that you ended up going down?
Well, I was completely devastated. I thought that's where I was going to make my millions. That's where my success was going to come from. And when I lost my dream, I didn't know what to do, and when we're emotionally traumatized and desperate, well, we start to go down whatever road seems the least resistant. And, when I was down in New York there, I met a guy in a hotel, actually, and he was a Colombian guy. and he was drug dealing, and he was making money. He had girls. He had all these, amazing things that a young guy would want at the age of 21.
Right. Yes.
And set the record straight, I've never told anyone this story. Maybe a few close friends, but this is the first time I've ever talked about this.
Well, it's an honor that you're letting our listeners into this part of your life, but I think it'll be helpful for them to understand how healing happens. I think we're in a society where we don't, it's cancel culture now. It's this ridiculous idea that you can't learn from your mistakes. You and I've talked about this, like, how else are we supposed to learn? Right? Are we just supposed to be perfect, like born like little cherubs and wander through an angelic life? Like, this is puritanicalism. Like, that's all this is, right? Like, how are we supposed to learn? And you've learned and grown and become this beautiful soul because of what you experienced. So thank you for sharing this with us. I want to hear this. This is important.
Yeah, man. I went down to New York, or south of New York there. It was and I was running this bar. And then, I met this guy. He was making it all. He was all flashy, and I wanted that. And the money seemed great. And he gave me an opportunity to start selling drugs, and I said absolutely. He said he never met a guy like me before. He seen me fight outside a bar one night. I got jumped by like 5 bouncers. They didn't even stand a chance with me. And this guy really took a liking to me because I was honest, one, and he was used to getting ripped off by people all the time, right? And I was like, I started making this guy money, which was making me money. And it really started me down a dark path. I was getting into the scene, around gangs, things like that, people who had weapons, guns, all kinds of, things like that. And it ended after almost a year. I was down there, and I had someone rob me. Once things went down with the cops, and I made a run for the border. I was like, I'm getting out of this country.
You gotta go.
The States is crazy, man. You go to jail in the States, you might never come back out.
Yeah.
And I was well aware of that, and I came back up to Canada. I started doing my thing again for a while. Money was trying to make money. I was always a hardworking guy. I always made money. I always worked hard, but I always wanted more. The greed got the best of me. And,
right.
So I made a call to my guys, where I was getting things going in Canada, right? I dated a girl. I went through some heartbreak, and I wanted to leave. So there was actually an opportunity to go to Europe. My mother was actually a missionary. She went to Europe, and I went with her as an escort, on her mission. And as we were going back after a month from India on this mission, I left her in the airport in London.
You left your mother in the airport in London.
I got off the plane. I already had made plans to go to Amsterdam to set up my little empire that I was building, and yeah, my mother cried. She handed me a couple hundred, British pounds, and and that was it, and it was I traveled all over Europe, man. I was all over. I had a place out in Amsterdam. I had a place in Spain. I was living this dream, I was making large quantities of money. It wouldn't be an odd night if I went and dropped, a couple $1,000 in a bar in a night. I used to have 500 euro bills, and couldn't even change them in the bars. So I'd say, well, just buy everyone a drink. Yeah.
So I want to stop there for a moment and go into it. Why does someone do things like that? Because I've done things like that too, where it's like it's almost like you want people's affirmation that like you're a good guy. So you go out and you just want to make everyone see what you're capable of. What is the feeling that motivates that, do you think? Because it is a great feeling. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
It's all ego at that point.
Yeah.
You think you're the man, you got girls around you. You don't realize people are just using you for your, for your good time and throwing money out. I'm gonna chase the guy who's throwing money around too. Like it was definitely the high of living that life. This is what you've seen on Hollywood movies. I'm the man, and was just one big lie I was living.
Were you happy?
I think I was having a good time. I was experiencing life. I was very young. I was very naive. I traveled Europe for years.
Yeah.
And this is something I've never told anybody is I got arrested in Norway. I did some time in Norway. I got busted with a decent quantity of cocaine, and they threw me in jail automatically. I was on a plane from Spain to Norway, and yeah, I was going to stay in Norway for a while. They wanted a 10-year sentence. I got off, on 2.5 years, and I was able to get out in a year and in 4 months. And
So what was that like? What was it like? What was that, a time of reflection, or were you just angry that you like what happened then?
oh, this was a complete roller coaster in itself. I went in, it's hard, puffing my chest out, like, don't mess with me type of guy, ready to fight the world. For the first couple months, Norway actually has a track record for like human rights. They like to be people in solitary confinement, and so they put me in solitary confinement for the first little while. No, nothing, no books, no nothing.
Okay. Share with I've never talked to someone who's been in solitary confinement before, but I've heard that it's torment. What is it like? It must be horrible.
The most horrible feeling you'll ever go through in your life, because it's like just you and your thoughts. That's it. You know what I mean? And a brick wall, like you don't got something nice.
Oh my God. Yeah. And like nothing, no marker of time, nothing, right? Just sitting there. So
Yeah.
what kind of thoughts do you have in that moment? I've read some books of people who've experienced that, and it's just, I think it's a transformative moment, but I'd love to hear what was it like spiritually, intellectually?
You go through every emotion you can possibly think of within the hour. You're happy, you're angry, you're crying, you're punching the wall. You're playing a victim. Why me? And then you're like, I'm gonna get through this. And it's just an emotional roller coaster, man. Like, when you hear people getting post-traumatic stress disorder, this is why.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm kind of fast tracking a lot of my story. There's so much that happened in between, but first few months was tough. And then they put me into a high security prison with inmates. These were not good inmates. There was, a lot of murderers, rapists, Hell's Angels even over there, gang leaders, you name it. And it was rough for the first 7 months. And eventually the guards realized, this kid shouldn't be here.
Right.
He's very polite, not causing too much havoc. He's just a kid pretty much. Like, I was only 21 years old.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the guards really took a liking to me. I took a turning point when I was in that prison. First I was fighting a lot, and then I realized I had to live with these people. I got to live with these inmates. And if I'm fighting with them, they want to stab you every day. That's not a good feeling.
No,
that's not a good feeling to go through. And so I started watching one guy that was actually in the prison. He was from Lithuania. I could see this light in him, man, just shining a light, when people carry that light like a moth, in the light, they're just beaming around it. And I wondered why this guy's happy. He's working hard. He's being favored by the guards, being favored by other prisoners. And he just really stuck to himself, and he gave nobody a reason to come after him. Which was very disarming. And then he would work harder than anyone you've ever met for nothing. And for nothing, absolutely nothing. You're making no money in there. You're not making nothing, but he's busting his ass whole day, all day. And I watched him from a distance, what this guy was doing. And I started to mimic. I started to mimic what he was doing. I was learning from him. I'm like, what? This guy's happy. If he can be happy, I can be happy too. Right?
So tell us more about this guy. Did you become friends with this guy?
Yeah, I did become friends with him. You know, in jail in Europe, it depends on what country you come from protects you. So, you know, you have everything from Albanians to Lithuanians to Polish to Sweden to Norway to German to Amsterdam, you name it, all the countries, and that's who you protect. You know, there was actually a lot of Iraqis and Iranians and Afghanistan in there, you know, all caught up in the heroin trade. And it was like, yeah, it was all about who you protected. And you can only imagine how many Canadians were in there.
Not very many. Were you the only one?
One Indigenous guy.
Right.
You know, and so my grandfather on my dad's side was from Poland, and the Poles and the Lithuanians, Latvians, you know, they could, a lot of the older guys, these are like mafia guys, they spoke Russian, you know, from the former Soviet Union. And they would hang out with each other, and I became friends with this. You know, he was a Polish mobster, and I became friends with him. And he was friends with this guy from Lithuania, you know, who I was watching from a distance. And yeah, I got to be friends with these guys. I lived with these guys every day.
Right.
You know, we were in the yard every day. We played volleyball out of all sports. The silly sport they let us play, and we killed it, man. It was like we were like playing like, you know, for the nationals every day out in this yard. yeah.
So,
you know, jail guys are.
I honestly, not that I don't think anyone envies the experience, but they're like, what a rich thing to have happen to you, to learn about yourself, like, and to learn about other people, and like, to go from fighting all the time to realize you have to live with these people. That's a big shift.
Yeah, well, at some point you got to figure it out, man. You got to learn from your mistakes. And the path I was going down, you know, I had guys try to stab me. You know, I was gonna end up dead. You know,
Right.
so it's like, what do? You change or you end up dead. You know,
Right.
you got to make a choice.
Yeah.
I was gonna live, and I was gonna live with a light in my heart. You know. So, yeah, there was a.
So you decide this, and they let you out way earlier than you're supposed to be. They were going to give you 10 years. You're out in a year and a half. What is that like, walking out that day and realizing you're a free man again?
It was very emotional. I was sent to 3 different prisons when I was in Norway. We'll go to the release maybe a little bit after here.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, the guards really vouched for me, you know, go to another prison. It was a prison for young troubled men. You know, it was still a high security prison, but it wasn't like criminal. You know, I wasn't going to get more criminal in there or stabbed.
Right.
You know? And they sent me to this other prison, and I immediately went in there. I started being the nicest guy you could ever think of. I started working out harder than anyone could. I was the strongest guy in there. And it just basically, I got respect right out of the gates. You know, I didn't even go trying to talk to anybody at first. I was asking them how their days were, being very friendly, and they just started coming to me. You know, at some point I was pretty much running, you know, the prison in a good way. You know, and I was protecting these young men who were vulnerable, were weak. There was people bullying on them. And I just like, you know, I was like a counselor inside jail, you know, and I started looking to my faith, to God. I started praying every night. I was reading a Bible. And that's where I started to realize, you know, it didn't matter where I was in life. I could be happy. I didn't need all the money in the world. I just needed the mindset. Right.
Oh, okay. Let's go into that right there.
Yeah, this is where the
This is the realization. This is where your life changed. How old are you at this moment? How old are you at this moment?
I think I went in when I was 21 or 22, right around there. Got the paperwork somewhere, but
so 20, you're praying, you realize mindset that you can't really control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. You come to this realization, right?
Come to this realization, you know, you know, you do bad things happen. You do good things happen. It's simple karma, how karma works, right? And, you know, started getting into the spirituality. I started asking to see the priest in this prison, you know, and this priest would come and talk to me, you know, and literally by the end of the prison sentence in this prison, Half the prison was going to the priests. They had to actually bring in all these new priests to start helping these young men on their spiritual journeys. And they thought the priest told me straight up, he said, this is, said, you restored my faith in God.
Wow.
He said, I've lost my faith in God for years. They get caught up in that, Catholicism. This was Lutheran, I think, in Norway. It's religion, right?
Yeah.
And you got to follow all these rules, but I helped this priest find his own light again. Well,
Wow, that is awesome.
I was in my darkest moment, and the guards were coming to me. I lost like 40 pounds. I had a 6-pack. People were asking me for health advice. Brought me, one of the most amazing moments was they brought me an indigenous drum when I was in there. And so I picked this drum up, and we were in front of the whole prison. They had kind of like, little times where you could, mingle with each other and play music and things like that. This was at the dinner table, and I grabbed this drum and I started to sing. I started to sing and play it, on an indigenous level, right? Throat singing.
Yes.
And so I was just playing and singing as loud as I could, and like the whole room just went dead silent. They just were eyes on me. And sorry, this is an emotional story. So the prison warden came up to me. He was a Sami. Those are the indigenous to Scandinavia. For anyone who doesn't know, the Sami, they ride reindeer, very connected to the earth, very spiritual to the earth, right? Believe in Mother Nature. And he came up to me crying. And he told me about his Sami heritage and how singing to him just touched his soul. And I was like, well, I'm really grateful, I was able to give this to you. And the next day he came up to me, and there's a famous prison in Norway called Bastøy Fengsel. Okay, I speak fluent Norwegian, by the way. It only took me 3 months to pick up the language.
Wow.
I call it Fengsel Norsk. Gail Norwegian.
Yeah.
And there's a famous jail in there. It's an island. It's like a heaven, jails in the world. They typically only let Norwegian people go there, people on the end of like 20-year sentences, 15-year sentences, long sentences, right? It's an island. It's based on indigenous teaching. And this warden came up to me the next day, and he looked at me and he said, "Skal go pole ski. Skal you go pole ski? Shall you go ski? You want to go skiing?" Sorry, my Norwegian might be a little off. It's been a few years. He asked me if I wanted to go skiing, and I just looked at him and I said, "Man, I would love to go skiing. Absolutely. Of course I'd love to go skiing." And he said, "Good. Pack your bag. You're going to Bastøy. It's island." And I'm like, wow. Like, what is happening here? And I won't go too much into this, but like during that time in that jail, I had different guards actually sneak me out of jail, snuck me out for the day, get me out of there because they could see how it was affecting me. Being away from your family, no visitors, no friends, you're speaking in a different language. But like, there's angels in there, man, looking out for me. Like, total angels.
So you go through this, you get out. Walk to us about how you got to where you are now. Like how you've had, we could probably have you on again. We probably are going to have to get the full story, but why did you start the Big Bear movement, and how did you become a global leader in the freedom movement over the last 2 years? And talk to us about addiction of your own that you went through too, because I know that's something that you talk about quite freely on TikTok and all over the place.
Yeah, so I got out of prison. Last month of my sentence, they let me walk across Norway. First Canadian to walk across Norway. Most amazing thing I've ever gone through in my life. I get released. I come back to Canada. I kiss the ground, man. I tell you what, when I landed in Calgary, Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Went to firefighter school, graduated pretty much top of my class in Edmonton, went to the oil patch, spent years in the oil patch. I lost my father in between there. I really, really went down a deep hole of addiction after I lost my father. To mask that pain. We lost him to cancer, and man, it was some of the darkest years of my life. I was staying away for days on end, using, drinking. It was really, really dark, and I had a few years of light when I got out of jail, but when I lost the father, that's when I went back into it, right? The roller coaster. And, lost my dad, years went by. Finally, I tried to commit suicide. Tried to commit suicide one night. This is it. I'm done. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the bad relationships. I'm sick of the hardship. I'm sick of trying to save everybody and I can't save myself. And yeah, I tried to off myself. Had a friend of mine drive me out to BC, Shambhala Music Festival. Got me off there for my last hurrah for night. And I went in there, I partied, came out, and down to where I live right now in British Columbia in the mountains. And I set up a queen size air mattress on the side of the river, and I went through the most incredible spiritual awakening you could possibly imagine. I started seeing visions. God started talking to me, telling me, you're going to be a voice in this world. You need to stand up and lead. And I fully surrendered on that beach. And that's where the Big Bear movement started.
Is your mom still around? Yeah.
My mom
You're still very
lives,
close with her, I imagine.
Yeah, my mother still lives in southern Alberta. She doesn't know a lot of this story. She knows little fractions of it. She'll watch it.
Wow. I want to talk about that moment where you surrendered, where you realized there's a great line from David Foster Wallace, who actually did end up killing himself, but one of the greatest authors of our lifetime. He wrote a book called Infinite Jest, which is about addiction and things like that. And I think I'd highly recommend it as someone also who's gone through addiction like you have and come out the other side. I don't think people realize the value of the suffering, right? We often talk about how great it was to have that moment of revelation, but I want to talk about something different here. I want to talk about what you learned from the darkness. What did the darkness teach you that allows you to be the light that you are now? And then I definitely want to get into what happened in the convoy and things like that. But I think this is important for people, right? For them to know that like you've seen the dark side of life, you've lived it, but you are one of the most happy and loving people I know. And even in the darkness, right? Even when you were in the darkness of prison, your light shone. And I think that's probably a credit to your mother to some degree for the light she constantly shone to other people's lives as a missionary. And obviously you're very close with your father. So credit to them for raising you as they did, but it's also your spirituality. It's your love of your people, right? It's who you are. But what did you learn from the darkness? Because we know the light that's in you, but tell us about the darkness.
Oh man, it was just brutal, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, terrible relationships. It added up, man. It was so just adding up, and it was dark, and and it was truly living in hell. I call it walking lonely. I was walking lonely for a time, and that darkness taught me that that's not who I want to be. That's not who I want to be in this life. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that sad story. I don't want to be that typical sad story that ends up, dead on the street. And that's Big Bear right there. That's his life. He got into some shit, he died, and then it's over. That's not what I wanted to be. The darkness taught me who I did not want to be. Truly who I did not want to be. It was, I was living in hell, and, I've gotten to where I am now is because I'm not going back there ever.
Yes.
Ever again.
Jordan Peterson talks about this, right? He talks about, you have to know what you're running from as much as what you're running towards. And I think it's interesting because you said when you were chasing fame and money and like the things that the things a young man wants, like every young man wants glory and fame and all the women around, all this stuff, right? But you learn at a young age, those things aren't going to do it. And then you had to face the darkness. So it was no longer, what are you chasing? Now it's, what are you running from, right? It's not just what are you going to be, it's what are you not going to be. And I find defining yourself by what you're not going to be is often more powerful as a motivator than defining yourself by what you want to be. But now you've got both. You know what you're running from, but you have this vision that you had lying by that stream on that mattress, right? You communed with the divine. You talked to the creator, right? What did the creator say?
I know exactly what the creator told me. The creator told me specifically when I went and woke up on that beach, the creator told me I was to be a general in his army, and I was to lead people with my voice and my heart, and walk and show them the path. And it was so head on exactly what God said to me, and I totally surrendered. I'm your servant. I will go to the ends of the earth, to carry this light and to help people. I always did help people. That's the thing. I always help people, even in my darkest time, right? And it just taught me, like, man, it was so incredible. And I was going for it. So this is it. This is how the Big Bear movement started, and I came up with a worldwide movement to aside religious and political views for the greater good of humanity, to bridge the gaps that are needed in our society right now, to bring people together. Doesn't matter what name you call God, the color of your skin. Let's find our tribe, our like-minded people, and let's work together for the greater good. The Big Bear movement is just about being a good human. That's it. It's that simple. It's about being a good human.
And we've lost our way on that. But the Big Bear movement is taking off, and a big part of that is the time you spent in Ottawa. So I know our listeners are dying to know. Tell us about Ottawa. Tell us about speaking on that stage. But most importantly, tell us about the love that was there.
And Ottawa was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. I've heard so many people say that's where they found their humanity. Because we were so hopeless last couple of years. We were completely hopeless. The ones that were awake were screaming, we need help, wake up, wake up. You almost wanted to slap people in the street, like how are they not seeing this, right? The division, the suicide, the mental health, all those things, and Ottawa was just the most amazing thing to happen to the world, man. It planted a seed right in the capital city of Canada, Ottawa, and it's just blowing out of the water now. When we got there, I knew this was my opportunity to get on a microphone. It's like, this is it. This is it. Me and my business partner were in Calgary picking up a tiny home. I was talking about taking people to Ottawa literally a month before with my friends out here in Nelson. And then all of a sudden the convoy started, and I was watching the GoFundMe, and I was getting pumped by the GoFundMe. And it was just like so freaking incredible. Right. And I just started feeding off of that. And I'm a motivator, man. When I get behind something, I drive it. Behind it, I drive it forward, just like we used to do in football. We just drive it, drive the ball. And, it was so freaking cool. So we turned the truck around. We were on our way we were coming to BC. We had a friend tackle our truck up with Freedom Convoy in the middle of the night. Slept a couple hours, and we turned to Ottawa, man. We were going for it. And when I got there, went straight to the hotel, parked the truck, went right downtown. That's when all the truckers just showed up downtown. It was like every street and every block was wall-to-wall humans, and I walked up to the stage. There was like Pat King speaking, Maxine Bernier, some of the organizers, right? And I walked up, said, "My name's Colin BigBear Ross. I speak on the microphone. I'm here to help," And they're like, "Absolutely," And there was, probably 500,000 plus people I spoke in front of, and the crowd just roared. like roared.
What was that like for a man who for so long you have this dream of playing in front of crowds, right? And gaining your glory and fame there. And now you're in front of a crowd that's probably bigger than any crowd you'd be in front of in a sporting event, unless it was like the Super Bowl or something big or some big playoff game. But you're not playing a game in front of them. You're giving them hope.
Yeah, that's exactly, you know, when I spoke, it was just to give a message of hope, love, unity. Let's come together, you know, for the greater good. Exactly what the Big Bear movement is, right? And that was my first speech on Parliament Hill, and the crowd just roared. And then I spoke for the Indigenous people of Canada. You know, I spoke from where my heart was. You know, we need to get them clean drinking water. We need to take serious the reconciliation, the healing process, and understand that, you know, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and men. We need to start taking these things seriously, Canada. Like, it's time, right? And you know, and get rid of Trudeau. You know, dropping the mandates were not good enough for me. I was like, no, we need to get rid of this guy. He's a clown, you know, and he's in my opinion, he's a murderer, a straight up murderer, you know, the lowest of the low.
Yeah, he's well, I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out showing that there was no expert advice to keep us from being able to fly, and for many of the mandates that were put in, it was pure vindictiveness and political divide and conquer strategy, which is just it's appalling. It's appalling. So now you've started a few projects. Why don't you talk about those? Our listeners are always interested in helping people and getting behind things. And I know you and I are working on one that we aren't quite ready to announce yet, but like you're starting a healing lodge. So many things have happened. I mean, we're probably going to have you on again just to talk about all the things you're doing, but why don't you share with the listeners about that?
So part of my vision was helping the world to heal. I was on that beach, was about to help. I was going to help heal the world. That was my goal. We're going to heal the world. Let's do it. And so part of this vision was, you know, buying some land and building a healing community, right? And really helping people to find that spirituality through God, through the Creator, through nature, right? Through eating good food, drinking good water, you know, and just leading people, just guiding them, because as healers, we're just guides, right? We guide people. We're a lighthouse, right? And what does a lighthouse do? Well, it helps to guide lost ships back to the shore, right? Using your life, using your story, right? That can relate to people and bring them back in the most graceful way. And, you know,
like you said, we can't force people into this. No one could force you to want to be healed, whether you were in the prison. It was mindset. It's exactly like you said. It's about changing mindset. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you see change? How do you help people change their mindset? We're all out here trying to, like you said, there's so many people trying to help people that are hard to help. How do you help someone guide them to change their mindset?
It really comes down to leading by example, you know, walking that good path, leading, holding voice, and just giving people your heart when they ask questions, you know, because you cannot lead, you know, you can't lead a horse to water if it doesn't want to drink, right? And you got to show people that light and see that there's something different about this guy. So when they question, answer, because it's a massive process to go through the healing process, man. It is so much work. You have to restructure your entire life, reprogram your entire brain, get rid of all your shitty friends. You got to rebuild your entire life, your finances, your structure, absolutely everything, you know, your programs. You know, what are you doing? Are you going to support groups? Are you going to church? Are you going to the gym? You know, change your habits. Like, there's just so much to it, right? And, you know, and you just got to like lead by example. That's what the Big Bear movement is. Lead by example, right? And show people the way, give them an answer, you know, and when the question's asked, right?
Show people the way. I love that. And you show people the way by walking in that way.
Absolutely. I walk with it wholeheartedly every day. You know, when I went through my awakening in 2019, a lot of people don't know this, but like I was going into back alleys in the middle of the night, you know, helping fentanyl addicts, meth addicts, you name it, and just like being a light in these dark alleys where no one else would go, and showing these people that, hey, man, you are worth it. are worth it. You are valuable. You're worth the healing. You're worth everything this world has to offer. And I'll be here to hold space for you and listen. I'm not going to try to push you into it. I'm just going to try to, I'm going to try to guide you into it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Zach?
I want to, yeah. How do you think, you talk a lot about God, which, religion's so complex. There are so many different religions. You come from an indigenous background. Um, how do you approach your spirituality? Like you talk about God. Um, the background of the indigenous wouldn't look to the same God that I, as a Christian, would look to. So you've already kind of done this marriage of spirituality within yourself, and you talk about the marriage of the spirituality and different religions out in the world. How did you go about that journey, and what did you learn through that?
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian home. My mother was a very devout Christian. Okay. I've only been really reconnecting with Indigenous side the last few years, but nature is the one that helped me heal. And that's the one the Indigenous are most connected through, through the creator. But honestly, it's just different names of God, when it comes down to it. If there's one thing I've seen in Ottawa that's had me so open-hearted to learning new things about spirituality is I seen Jews there, I seen Sikhs, I seen Muslims, I seen Indigenous, I seen Christians, you name it. Every nationality that was there, Africans, and the one thing I seen in all these people was God. They were all carrying the light.
Yeah. I love that. Is a great. Oh, they were all carrying the light. Yeah. They were all carrying the light.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's go into that. So you're in Ottawa. You're seeing all of these people carry the light. Like, you must have had just the most incredible conversations with so many people. Can you highlight one or two experiences that you had? So you talked about speaking on the stage, which is obviously an incredible experience, but what about one-on-ones? Like, what did you learn from individuals there?
Everyone was just so happy to see each other, man. That's what it was like. Everyone was just like, I love you. You're amazing. It was like going to the biggest support group you could possibly go into in the world, right? Like, we were literally healing generational trauma in Ottawa just from the vibration of love we were getting off. And we were all spirit, we're spirits living in this human body, and we were all there together enjoying it, right? They were hugging each other. We were crying. There was days we broke down. We were praying. We were dancing. It was just like letting it all out, right? Letting the trauma out. The government's pushed on us the last few years. And it was just we definitely found our humanity in Ottawa.
We found our humanity in Ottawa. You're just hitting these lines out of the park right now, Big Bear. There's some beautiful, beautiful things here.
I generally speaking wouldn't be caught dead saying anything nice about Trudeau, but I think the interesting thing about that whole experience is that entirely unintentionally, and I give him zero credit for this, but I think in a new and beautiful way, his oppression united Canadians. And I think we are just at the very cusp of what that journey is going to be. And I look forward in the greatest anticipation and the most excitement for what this country, this beautiful, incredible, wonderful country, is going to look like in 20 years, because we today stood up together and said, I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what creed you are. I don't care what sexuality you are. I don't care where you come from. None of that matters, because you standing here beside me, you are my brother. You are my sister. And that is the Canada that we are going to take forward into the future.
That's what we're taking back. That's what we're taking back.
Ottawa was like going to a family reunion of people you just met. That's exactly explain it. It was like going to an endless family reunion with brothers and sisters and cousins that you didn't know, but you felt like you knew them an entire lifetime. At the end of it, it was was a connection. Humans are supposed to connect, man. We're not
Yes.
supposed to be separated.
No.
We're not supposed to be doing
And
all
I
this.
think it's amazing that you went through solitary confinement. So you know literally how bad that is for someone before we all had to go through this BS as a society.
It breaks you as a human. And that's exactly what our government was doing. They were making a jail out of our homes, and they were manipulating the health system to do it.
Mm. And then while we were all stuck in our homes, they were feeding us all of the propaganda about how scared we were supposed to be and how we were supposed to avoid everyone else and not go out and stay inside and be afraid. They stuck us in our home and they fed us the fear. And we won't forgive them for that, and we won't forget either.
No.
But I don't want to stick in the negative too long. We spend so much time in the negative. What I want to ask you next is, Ottawa has come and gone. That was an incredible experience. That was an amazing moment for Canada, one that will no doubt go down in history. But for you, just in your own personal journey and what you're doing, what comes next?
Oh man, I got so much going on here, brother. Like, I got my clothing lines. I have the Big Bear movement. I got people trying to work with me from every part of the country, the United States, you name it. I'm building an Indigenous nature healing lodge out here in British Columbia. We just put in a campground. We're going to start doing healing festivals, organic farm. We're going to start building eco homes. Like, we're doing it, man. We're even looking into biodiesel right now. Like, we're going to pioneer the new world. That's what I'm going for, man. I'm going to pioneer the new world, and let's all go. Let's all do this, and let's start paving a path, because the current system we're in right now is crumbling.
Yes.
It is rotten at the core, and it is crumbling right now.
But that's an exciting opportunity, and I see you seizing that opportunity by the horns and saying, let's build something beautiful.
Yeah, you have to, and the one thing I seen in Ottawa was there wasn't like that much leadership, especially with the support. So that's why I really jumped into the role I was in, because I was like, we need to evolve. We need to think what we're doing here, setting up structure. I always like setting up structure. You build on sand, what happens. You build on rock, what happens.
Yeah, you got to build on the good foundation.
Yeah, absolutely, right? We need to start thinking, where are we going into this new world? Financial collapse is coming. Inflation is coming. Those things are not stopping. So how do we transition into the new world where it's not going to be as chaotic as they want it to be?
Well, yeah, there's a great line from a Tom McDonald song where he says, I believe the elites are real. They're just not drinking baby's blood. They're causing chaos so they have something to save us from.
Yeah. That's what they do. They play like they're the heroes. They come in, oh yeah, we're gonna be nice to you, and then they come in the hero, or they're gonna, it's manipulation at its finest.
Yeah.
They manipulate everything, the markets, you name it. The price of gas right now, they're manipulating. They're just like, it's just one big lie, and it's starting. People are seeing
crumble. It's crumbling.
Seeing it.
Well, we try to keep these under an hour for our listeners. I am so grateful you came on. We got to have you on again. Thank you for sharing your story, parts of it that you've not shared with hardly anyone. I know that's going to help people. I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. I know, Zach, I'll let you say your thoughts, but thank you so much for standing up and being courageous, but more importantly, for carrying that light through your life journey, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, man. Bless you, brother. You're an incredible human being, and I love sharing a country with people like you. It's an honor to me, and I hope that we can go into some projects together in the future, because I'm heading the same direction you are, and I wanna be a part of that. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Where can people find you, and do you have any last words for the people listening?
People can find me, Colin BigBear Ross on Facebook, TikTok. I don't know. I have 3 different accounts because, they keep taking my accounts down. So the Big Bear Movement on Instagram as well, TikTok, Colin BigBear Ross on TikTok. BigBearMovement.com is my clothing line. I'm going to start implementing, I have a healers page where you can bring in like drug counselors, indigenous healers, all kinds of different modalities there to really help people with their struggles. So we're going to start seeing a lot of me all over, and it won't be hard to find me, but BigBearMovement.com, there's my email on there. And give me an email anytime.
Nice. And any parting words for the people listening?
Yeah, I want to tell people, anyone out there who's struggling right now, I'm praying for all of you. We're going to get through this, okay? There's hope. Focus on your healing journeys, focus on your sobriety. Remember that you're worth it. You're valuable, you're loved. And we are going to get through this together as one big human family. And I love you guys so much, and just carry that light, and let's go forward, forever forward, Canada.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colin BigBear Ross, founder of the Big Bear Movement, a global movement that puts aside political and religious views for the greater good of the world by using love and positivity, like a lighthouse that helps to guide lost ships back to the shore. We use our lights, our stories to help those who are struggling by bringing them empowerment, hope, and strength. We lead by example. This is a lifestyle. A part of the Big Bear Movement is giving back with our success. The goal is to partner up with charities who align with us that believe in things like finding missing Indigenous, fresh water for all, and helping to lead people out of addiction, the real problems of the world. And how can you help? Go to our website, BigBearMovement.com. There you'll find our clothing line, our product line, our team of online holistic consultants, anywhere from art lessons to Reiki masters, spiritual healers, yoga instructors, and much, much more. So I invite you all, join us, walk with us, join our tribe. Together, we can make the world a better place. We all have our part to play.
Thank you for listening to The Canadian Story. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at TheCAD That's the CAD Story. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Let's work together to remind Canadians how great their country is.